With our first meeting, is there a motion to exit executive session?
So moved.
And yes, no action taken. We'll convene our work session now.
I'll make a motion to adjourn our first meeting.
Very good, and we will now start our work session. Mr. Hollingshead, good morning.
Good morning.
I think the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much
Larry,
for coming to
Larry, we need you to come to the podium to use the
I
microphone.
have to speak in my loud voice.
That's all right.
Where's our to speak in my loud voice. So is this a microphone?
Yes.
Okay. Good morning, and thank you,
Or you can use the
everyone.
hand
You
mic.
can use that and turn around,
Okay.
speak to the people.
How's this? Thank you, everyone, for coming to the 5th anniversary celebration of the Imagination Library. It was almost exactly 5 years ago, Commissioner Jones convened a group of people to meet with Mrs. DeWine's Imagination Library launch team. And since then, we've served 8,500 kids have been through the program and graduated and gone on to Warren County schools. We currently have 8,500 readers, and one of them just announced herself. Altogether, we have 17,000 readers in the program. And this morning, you'll get to meet some of the people who have given a lot to the Warren County Imagination Library, but first we'd like to show you how it's making a difference in Warren County. And we'll have 4 impact stories. Joy Strankar is going to talk about her work at Mason Early Childhood Center. And is John Cooper here?
He's en route.
Oh, he's en route. Well, we'll introduce John when he comes. So Joy, the microphone's yours.
Good morning. My name is Joy Strankar, and I am a reading intervention teacher and teacher leader at Mason Early Childhood Center, as well as a member of the Warren County Imagination Library School Advisory Board. When I first joined the School Advisory Board in the spring of 2021, I was tasked with finding ways to increase our enrollment of pre-K children in Warren County. At Mason, we have supported the Warren County Imagination Library by distributing enrollment materials at our kindergarten registration and encouraging enrollment on our virtual bulletin board that's sent out to all of our families in the district. Before I talk about the impact the Imagination Library has on our incoming kindergartners, I would like for all of you to just take a moment to reflect on your own reading journey. So maybe think about, what is your favorite children's book? And is there a special person or place that this book makes you think of? Just take a second. If you'd like to share that with the person next to you, go ahead. Anybody in the room? If not, I'll tell you about mine. All right. For me, I have 3 books that come to mind. When I was a little girl, every year through the holiday season, my family would snuggle together to listen to The Night Before Christmas. This began my love for stories. My brothers and I were quick to pick up on the rhyming patterns through the story, and we could all join in at the end of each stanza in the poem. Here's mine. This is actually the one that we had when I was a little girl. And then as a mom, reading the book Elemental Peas taught my now middle school age daughter concepts of print, like how to hold a book, turning the pages front to back, as well as some early alphabet skills. The 3rd book that comes to mind has a more recent story. I had the opportunity to read as a Storytime volunteer at Family Promise this past summer. The child I read with chose to read Goodnight Gorilla. So that's this one. It's also a favorite in my house. He quickly picked up that the written words matched the words read aloud and was so excited to read the book aloud to his mom, reading the words, "Good night, good night, good night, good night, good night, good night, good night," at the point in the story when all the animals had followed the zookeeper home. When our upcoming kindergartners have participated in the Imagination Library and have had books and stories read to them regularly, they come to kindergarten with a variety of early literacy skills, including concepts about print, letter and sound knowledge, rhyming skills, basic word recognition, early vocabulary skills, and story understanding. They have begun to develop a love for reading and are drawn to a particular series or character. In Mason, we are so grateful for the early literacy opportunities that our young learners gain from the Imagination Library, and we look forward to seeing these opportunities grow in the coming years as enrollment increases. Thank you.
Superintendent Cooper, would you like to say a word or two?
Well, I'll just say, can I speak from here? Do you need me on
Come on down.
Yeah.
You're live on candid camera, so you need to pick up your voice.
Is this okay right here?
Well, first of all, thank you. I was running from another board meeting, but I just want to thank Joy so much for her dedication. She's a champion, and when this was brought to our school district, we were tasked to find a champion, and a champion of early literacy. And Joy does so much for our school district beyond just the Imagination Library. She didn't get to share all that today, but just her commitment to early childhood intervention and making sure that kids have what they need to be successful. So we want to thank you for allowing us to be partners and serving in this way. It is near and dear to our hearts to make sure that all of our students are set up for success to learn. So thank you so much from behalf of the Board of Education and Mason City Schools. We appreciate you allowing us to be here today. Thanks.
Thank you, John. Next impact story is from Franklin Schools and Robin Denisi, and as introduced by the famous Mike Sanders. And Mike has a grandson, Dean, who is an avid Imagination Library reader.
I can't understand why Larry's so nervous giving me a microphone, because I'm a man of few words. I don't really, I'm shy. I'm working to get over that.
We know.
So, no, I want to thank you all for being a part, allowing Franklin City Schools to be a part of the Imagination Library. It is fantastic. When I first came to Franklin, we were hoping to get it, and you all have made it possible for us. I was very fortunate as a kid to have parents that had books, and we were, and I just remember we had a drawer at the bottom of the chest, and anytime you open it up and there's a bunch of books to read, my parents would read to us all the time, my brother, myself, and that's what we did with our kids. Unfortunately, in Franklin, we've got almost 63% free and reduced, and parents don't know about the importance of reading to their children, or they don't have the means to purchase books for their students, their child. And this has been huge because we have a great need. We have a great literacy deficit in Franklin, and I always talk about the first 5 years are so important, and how the brain develops and so forth. And unfortunately, our kids come to school lagging. We only have about 27% of our students prepared for kindergarten when they come on day one. And so I'm very proud of our staff, because over 13 years of time we get them. We bridge that gap. But a big part of what's going to help us do that is the birth to 5 years, and that's what the Imagination Library helps us so much with. It provides those materials to parents, and we try to educate our parents on what they need to do to read to their children, but it gives them resources. So I just want to thank the county commissioners for allowing Franklin to be a part of this program. And Robin Denisi, my superintendent in Franklin, she does a great job. She's a lifelong resident of the district and has a great passion for our kids and for our education and for our reading. So she's done a fantastic job with this. So I'll turn it over to Robin.
Thank you.
I really appreciate the opportunity to come to you today and share just a little bit. My topic is about Warren County's Kindergarten Readiness Assessment in correlation with Franklin City Schools Kindergarten Readiness Assessment. I gave you a little handout, and if you turn to the back, I like graphs better than charts myself, but that will show you that all of Warren County's data, with Franklin excluded, you have an average, and it runs, Warren County runs just a little bit higher than the state average in terms of students coming into kindergarten being ready, demonstrating readiness to be in kindergarten. And you see where Franklin lags just a little bit lower than that, and Dr. Sanders did a great job of explaining our population. What's so important in that birth to 5 in terms of literacy, that we know through the science of reading that our brains are, when we are born, we're ready to learn about language. We're ready to start listening, and then at the age of 2 to 3, we start speaking. But our brains are not naturally wired to learn how to read. That has to be explicitly taught. But a big part of the pre-reading is in that birth to 5, where parents are reading to their children. Children that have a very robust, rich vocabulary home, their children are brought into the conversation, they do far better. The Ohio Department of Education and the Read Ohio Comprehensive Literacy Plan gives the following statistics. That if a student comes in ready, based on the kindergarten readiness assessment in their fall of their kindergarten year, they are 7 times more likely to score proficient on the 3rd grade reading assessment, and they are 2.7 times more likely to be proficient in mathematics with those story problems there, and they are 3 times more likely to graduate on time. And that's just coming in to kindergarten, demonstrating a readiness for kindergarten. Isn't that fantastic? Isn't that interesting? So those people that come into kindergarten have not had that language rich, nor have they had maybe the exposure to children's books, and they aren't enrolled in a high quality preschool program, and they can come in not demonstrating readiness to kindergarten, that even though we have fantastic teachers with a heart and passion for literacy, they're always on that catch-up bus. So thank you for supporting the Imagination Library to put good quality children's books in the hands of our students in birth grades, listen to me, you can tell I'm public school, in ages birth through 5, and at least giving our parents the tools. And then next, I think the important thing is to share with our parents how to use those books in order to bring some of those skills to the table. So again, thank you so much on behalf of Franklin City Schools.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Robin. As I was telling Mike earlier at the beginning of this meeting, believe it or not, Robin Denisi is helping the state of California with their kindergarten readiness assessment, and they need it. Okay, next is the Head Start program, and Kelsey Zielinski is going to tell us about how the Imagination Library is used in Head Start, and Kelsey has an Imagination Library reader in her family too.
Hello, good morning. My name is Kelsey Zielinski, and I am the site administrator at one of our Head Start programs here in Lebanon, and I'm also a parent of 2 Head Start children. Both are one who is 6 and the other is 2. My oldest son just started kindergarten this year, and I get the cool experience of seeing Head Start from a staff and parent perspective. I started my Head Start career as an infant and toddler teacher, where books are a critical part of their development. Books are important at all age levels, but through books, infants and toddlers begin to learn colors, recognizing familiar people, places, things, animals, and most important of all, language and vocabulary. Outside of aiding in a young child's development, books create opportunities for connection. The children we are serving in all of our Head Start programs are longing for connection with a trusting adult. I remember spending 30 minutes to an hour reading book after book to the little babies in my classroom and just seeing that excitement of reading the next book. Imagination Library is helping us as educators bridge the gap between home and school by creating moments of connection with a child's parent or caregiver. We're able to provide flyers, bookmarks, and pamphlets to our families during enrollment that explain the Imagination Library and the books that they get once a month. I want to take a moment to share my appreciation to the Imagination Library to distributing books centered around emotions. Children birth to 5 feel an emotion, but they do not truly understand why they are feeling that emotion, and as adults and educators, it is our job to teach them. Building up a child's social emotional development is essential to their ability to learn academics. We are seeing more and more children experience trauma, which then results in the inability to regulate themselves. One book I have received recently from the Imagination Library called A Little Emotional has been very helpful to share with my child as a parent. My oldest son struggles with anxiety and ADHD. Both of these diagnoses combined create moments for him where he can become extremely dysregulated. Books such as A Little Emotional helps him to see feelings through pictures and hear a story about why another child may be feeling a particular feeling. This book helps him make a connection to his feelings in his own personal life. As a parent, these social emotional books are a tool I can use to help my child understand that feelings are okay and we can manage and work through them positively. If I could wish for one thing, it would be that Imagination Library continue to make more books related to social emotional development. This will give parents across the world tools to help their children manage their emotions in their home. As I stated before, behavioral concerns in children are on the rise, and we need a village to help us make that positive difference in a child's life. Thanks to you all, the Imagination Library can provide books to so many children and create positive bonding and connecting moments. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have lots of readers in Warren County of Dolly books, and some of them were with us this morning. Of the 8,500 current readers, I would like to ask those who were brave enough to bring their children, beginning with Brody, and I'd like to ask you to stand briefly so you can give us some good examples. You can bring Cody up, Arla. And I think Marty left the room for... Okay, the Connors and Cody, and we have Ms. Hubble out in the hallway. And let's see. Well, hi, Megan. And anybody else? Okay, thank you very much. That's just a small sample. Finally, I'd like to introduce, in about 16 hours, Sheriff Barry Riley to talk about the Storytime reading program.
So, good morning again. Larry said, "Speak from the heart." I have always been involved in my community in this county, and I've always done a really good job of just flying under the radar and doing what needs done. I actually declined to do this because I didn't feel I should be standing up here, and Larry did what any good leader would do and didn't respond. And promptly rescheduled me on there. So lessons learned. I have learned so much, especially from the ladies that I first followed who sang in unison the head, shoulders, knees, and toes song, and they're putting stamps on these kids, and they were just incredible, and I was so out of my league. But I quickly realized that I don't quit, and it's meant to be, because I have found that these kids actually appreciate a safe man with them. There is a place for us. I have learned that touch is okay, because when you're reading to a baby, a child, there is something where they just belong right here. Right? They belong right here. I've learned that I can't save them all. I have learned this, that I read it safe on Main. I have learned that fist bumps are good. High fives are not. Because when you go to high five a baby and they instinctively flinch, that's the kid you're reading to. So, thank you for what you do. Joy, Kathy, you guys just are my heroes for setting all this up. So, thank you, folks.
Thank you very much, Barry, and thank you, everybody, for standing up and speaking. Now we'd like to introduce some of the other 125 Imagination Library volunteers. So I'm going to name some groups, and when I name a group that where you spend most of your time, please stand up and remain standing, and we'll have applause. We can all applaud for each other at the end. First of all, the Storytime program that Barry talked about reads to children in homeless shelters in Warren County. That program started in Lebanon and it'll be expanding, I'm sure. And so The Storytime is powered by Jennifer Landry, who does a great job of acquiring books from the post offices. Kathy Howell, Joy Strankar, and Regina Morgan, superintendent of Little Miami Schools. Regina couldn't be here this morning.
See y'all, stand up,
Yeah, stand up. Come on, Jennifer.
Jennifer.
And Barry, Greg is here. Barry and Greg and about 12 to 15 other volunteers are available to read to homeless families. Thank you. Now the launch team. When the program started 5 years ago, a number of people stood up, and first I'd like to ask those involved in marketing and managing the events. Candace, don't be shy. Any other people from the marketing team? Yeah, Candace represents the marketing team. Countryside Y was a great, great, great asset to us because Julie stepped right up and got kids registered in the child care program. And so, Julie, will you and your other friends for Countryside Y please stand up? Warren County Community Services has always been very helpful. We have a fulfillment center that's managed by Lisa Baker. She couldn't be here this morning, but thank you, Warren County Community Services. And then our employer programs. Candace ran a program that worked with employers in Warren County to enroll their employees' children and grandchildren. And the Warren County Administration, one of those LCNB, Gent, is Scarlett here? At Advix? Okay, there's Scarlett. And that's been a great asset to the program. Next is our schools. Every school superintendent, and we have a liaison person from each school. They've been very supportive, and obviously one of the things we want to do is improve kindergarten readiness and give children a better shot at life. So would all the school people please stand up? Bob Fisher there in the back, he has Imagination Library experience at Carlisle, so we're very encouraged by that. And the school advisory group, Joy is standing up. Are there others here from the school advisory group? There's one advisor associated with each school. Then our founders, Warren County Foundation, Tom and I work together, I would say tirelessly, wouldn't you, Tom? We met most every week for almost all these 5 years, and the foundation provided us a base, paid for the economic impact study that the University of Cincinnati did, and in many, many other ways. And Tom and Jennifer and Bobby Grice, I don't know if she's going to claim be identified with the Warren County Foundation. Okay.
Carol.
And last, our donors, we'd like to thank Dolly Park Imagination Library of Ohio. Annie Droege is our regional manager. She's here. And they're the structure that we're based on. The Dollywood Foundation pays for half of the cost of the books that are delivered to Warren County. We've delivered almost 400,000 books. A year from now, we'll be at 500,000. In 2030, I'll tell you about that in a minute. There are many donors, both particularly the city of Springboro, Premier Health, Turtle Creek Township, the city of Lebanon, and others, and we have about 25 other private donors. So thank you to everybody for supporting Imagination Library. If there's others that I forgot, please don't be bashful. Okay, thank you very much. That was the first 5 years. The next 5 years, our goal is 10, 20, 30. We want to have 10,000 readers every month. We want to have 20,000 children who have finished the program and entered kindergarten ready to read. And we want to have 30,000 families served altogether. So that's going to be directed by the current board of directors. And so would board members, would you please stand up? Randy Cooven is here. Brody's here. Tracy Carson from Mason Schools. Martha, Craig, Bobby. Julie was going to be here. Julie McClellan was going to be here. But these are the group that's going to work in the next 5 years to achieve 10, 20, 30. Thank you.
Well, thank you all for coming out here and sharing your stories with us and the success of the Imagination Library. It's really encouraging that when you have just a single meeting, that it grows into one of the most collaborative exercises I think that this county has ever seen, and really the state has ever seen. In the midst of people with great divides and a lot of kind of hostility brewing, this has been one of the greatest projects that I've ever had the pleasure to work on. I think Larry mentioned, how fortunate we are to have Dolly Parton in our midst, who, through her generosity, pays for half of this program. And then with the leadership of Governor and Mrs. DeWine, they pay for, and of course the support of, in a bipartisan way, of the legislature, they support another 25% of the program. And then this local community has come together. The libraries have been incredible partners from day one. I remember at that first meeting, the libraries just said, we're in. We've been wanting to do this program for a long time, but it was too expensive for us to do on our own. And they really ponied up, not once, but have done it subsequently to ensure that as we're building our program in our own county, that we can sustain it at the same time. So they have been wonderful partners. The schools have been tremendous partners. Our human services organizations, our public employees, our higher education institutions, everyone has played a part in this important program that really unifies us as a community, where we're unified behind the common purpose to ensure every child is ready to learn and to reach their full potential. And for those of you who know me, this is my greatest passion on the planet. It's what I believe I was called to do, which is to be an advocate for what is too often wasted potential in our midst. And I'm equally gratified that I have two partners here who share in the desire to ensure that every child, every single child in Warren County has the ability to go to school and be successful and live out their God-given potential. And so with that, Commissioner Young and I, along with Commissioner Grossman, who couldn't be here today, are really thrilled to announce that we too want to participate alongside of you as partners in this work. Given the fact that, and I really thank the City of Franklin for sharing some of this data with us around, really seeing certainly lots of room to improve prior to the pandemic, but the pandemic, we saw a decline in readiness that we hope that with these one-time resources, we can continue to help ensure recovery from the pandemic. But we're thrilled to be here today to contribute $340,000 to the Imagination Library to be able to sustain the program. As you continue to build up your kind of bank account, your foundation resources to be able to sustain the program and provide a little bit of resources to have someone on a part-time basis be able to manage the incredible amount of work that Larry and Tom and Jennifer and Annie and all of the libraries have done just to continue to all volunteer, make sure this program is successful for the long term. So of course, Dave, before we present the very big check, because the bigger the
Very
check, the
big.
better.
Very big.
Do you have anything you'd like to add?
Well, I think elected officials a lot of times like to use the word we did this, it's collaborative, it's this, it's that. Let me be clear, in this circumstance, it wasn't we, it was Commissioner Jones. This is her project, she did this, she led the effort. You should get the credit for this, not all of us. My second thought is when you think about our community, especially on a day like today, Election Day, you think of, well, why do we choose in a free market economy to live where we live? And these are the reasons. When you have, the soon-to-be sheriff-elect, we like public safety here. We like economic opportunity here. We like opportunities for jobs and companies to grow to where we can all have these different employment opportunities. And a lot of the basis of that is our children, is the education. If it starts with them, that's why the free market decides that people want to come here, because they want a good place to raise their kids. And our school districts are so critical in this. And I'm so happy to have so many representatives here. And the school districts in Warren County have led. Superintendent Cooper and I, with the other superintendents during the terrible time of COVID, Warren County led on trying to get the kids back into the schools. That we knew that it was going to be detrimental to their long-term learning. We tried everything possible, and eventually a Warren County program was adopted by the state. They took over how we actually got our kids back into schools throughout the state. So the education in our community is just the foundation. And so anything we can do now, again, my eldest daughter actually teaches at a Christian preschool. So she tells me all the time about how critically important it is to have the toddlers, 3, 4, 5-year-olds, actually reading books and what that does for them. So again, thank you all for what you do. But again, it's not we with this big old check, it's Commissioner Jones. But yeah, I'm always willing to give out a big check on something like this. This is awesome. So thank you all.
So we're gonna try. Everybody who's been a part of the library, we'd love to kind of have you come up here and congregate, and we'll present the big check, Larry, to you and Tom and others, but we'd love to have everybody who's been a part of this in the picture.
And I have to make amends, if I may, please. Martin just gave me all sorts of trouble about getting this done in 30 minutes. So when I talked about the founders, of course, they included the libraries. And the library directors are almost part of my family by now. And you always hurt the ones you love, right? So thank you very much to the 5 Warren County Public Libraries.
Thank you. All right. Like we announced in the preschools, everybody keep their hands to themselves and come up as fast as you can, quickly. Always mine. You guys. How are you? Good. Don't be shy. Choppity chop. Larry, come on. Larry.
You know that better than I do if I'm like, I know. I purposely watch to make sure.
All right. They don't realize what's happening when you guys are.
Go ahead and go.
Well, when you do get up
Good to see you, brother. Good to see you.
You are doing all right?
Hey, Richard, how are you? Nice to see you. Amen. Amen.
Probably first of the year.
Yep. January would be great. I can't even believe we're scheduling in January already.
Suzanne, come on up. Let's get this
Chop
show
it up.
moving.
Chop it up. Still got business. Chop it up.
Okay,
Top that. Top that.
that was very exciting, very exciting. Should I go ahead and start? So the Ohio EPA has a program, a grant program, where they assist businesses with their efforts to reduce waste and to recycle. This might sound familiar to you. We've been up here in years past with these grant opportunities. And you might recall that businesses are not able to apply directly, but they have to do it through a government agency such as the Solid Waste District. So Eco Development is here this morning to ask your permission to apply for this grant through the Solid Waste District. You're probably familiar with Eco Development. Our office works with them closely. We have our styrofoam recycling shed. They recycle expandable polystyrene and cardboard, and they help us a lot throughout the year. And so Chris Lazuda is here today. He's going to tell you what the project is, and there's a resolution if you would like to pass it to allow us to apply for this grant.
Thank you.
Good morning, I'm Chris Lazuda, and before I mention what the grant is, I wanted to say thanks again to Commissioner Jones for spearheading the big check that was given to Warren County. My wife is a Mason school teacher in 3rd grade. She was a District 4's Teacher of the Year in 2021, so represented all of Warren County as a Teacher of the Year. She benefits directly.
For the 3rd grade reading guarantee.
There you
she
go.
said it. Yeah,
So
yeah.
thank you again. Love her a lot and wanted to honor her because I'm proud of what she does. So I wanted to say thank you while I had a moment to speak to you directly.
Thank her for us.
Will do. Will do. The grant that we're looking to partner with Warren County on is to purchase a densifying machine that takes expanded polystyrene, shrinks it down, melts it, shrinks it down, and is able to give styrofoam a second life. As Suzanne had mentioned, we partner with this campus, and we are monthly giving an environmental impact report to what this campus specifically does in relation to expanded polystyrene. And for the year, we have saved over the equivalent of 30 barrels of oil being burned by the efforts that this campus is doing to recycle expanded polystyrene. So that's just one area, and we partner with many others in Montgomery County and Warren County. So it's a big deal when it comes to environmental impact positivity for recycling styrofoam. We are growing at a rate of 17% year over year with the amount of styrofoam that we are recycling, and we get donations. We have businesses that we partner with within Warren County, and we are looking to get a second machine to meet the manufacturing demands that the county contributes in. There's no dollar specifically coming from Warren County. It's only a governmental agency that sponsors this effort through the Ohio EPA.
Very good, so we're just applying for a grant, done this stuff before, this is common practice, so.
It is, they do all of the work really, the money just channels through us,
All right.
we make sure they've done what they have to.
Very good, we got a motion?
So I have a resolution authorizing the Warren County Solid Waste Management District to submit a 2025 market development grant to the Ohio Environmental Protection Agency on behalf of Eco Development LLC.
So moved.
And Jess, thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Very good, it's 10:14, we are 1 minute ahead of our work session with Ms. Spencer. Oh, you doubt me.
I can be super quick.
No, you got plenty of time now.
That's the way you like it, right? I'm here to talk about the procurement policy. I think Martin shared a draft with you. Back in October, we got changes from the state saying for the competitive bidding, they were raising the threshold to $75,000 from $50,000, and then they also put in an escalating scale. So I contacted Katie Horvath from the prosecutor's office and said, hey, help me do this. Well, we looked at the policy. It's old, it's not outdated, but it needs more refinement. So she spearheaded a project to better organize it, make it much more friendly, user-friendly, and she also made a really good flow chart. If you happen to look in the back of it, it's a great flow chart that explains the whole procurement process.
So it's improving it for constituents who wish to put bids in for county projects.
Right. It's improving the whole procurement process and breaking it down into divisions, also putting some clarity for verbiage for contracts, since the prosecutors look at the contracts. Well, I'm here for one section. I need your input on that. And for the informal quote process, currently we require the departments to get 3 quotes when costs are over $2,500. We've had recommendations to move that to $5,000 or request. So I'm here to get your input on that to see if that's something you're interested in doing or if you have an alternative idea.
So when was the $2,500 threshold put in place?
I believe it was put in place. Do you remember, Martin? Was that last year or the year before?
It was a few years back, but
Yeah.
It's
I think it's been 2 years since we updated that, and it was updated because of the rising cost of supplies and equipment, and that hasn't slowed down at all. So the request came from departments, is that possible? We also discussed it with Diane, and she said it seemed like a decent request. So that's why we're here. Or we can come up with a different plan and maybe do like the escalating thing and maybe move it to 3,000 and then bump it up another 5 every year or something like that. So I needed to get your input so we can move forward with that piece and then share the final document with elected officials for feedback and then bring you back a final document.
And I assume the $5,000 threshold, it's not inconsistent with the Ohio Revised Code in any way.
Can I
Yes.
interrupt and add? Okay, so the legal changes that were made were based on the legal changes that happened in October of 2022. So we had that $75,000 threshold increase. I think we did like an amendment to the policy at that time,
Right.
just as a Band-Aid. And then there was another change involving qualifications-based selection. When I went to try to put the qualifications-based selection into our existing policy, it was like unreadable. So that's why we sort of started doing this rewrite, making it much more readable for employees. The informal quotes came up because at some point we circulated this to department heads and staff to say, you people who buy every day, tell us like what's missing here, what do you need to see clarification on. And there was more than one department, right, who said.
We talked to telecom and water and sewer because they're big spenders,
Yeah.
and I believe facilities management we had a small conversation with.
Both of those departments made this request that informal bid, informal quote threshold was increased. that's not, to answer your question, that's not in the revised code. That is a county policy, so that's something that you all, need to decide whether you want to increase that threshold. I think that the purpose behind that policy, not to put words in your mouth, but is probably for transparency's sake. It's not that hard to go out and shop and get 3 quotes from people. And so whatever you decide in terms of that threshold, if you think that it should mirror what the revised code does with the bidding threshold, which is that escalation clause, you could do it that way, or you could keep it at a solid number and just, every couple years.
So if it were to mirror the Ohio Revised Code with the escalation, what does that look like in real dollars?
It's a 3% escalation every year. With the caveat that the Director of Development at the state actually is the one who sets that. So it's anticipated to be 3%, a 3% increase each year, but that could be different.
I would just say that 3% is obviously based on a higher number versus here, so 2,500 times 3%.
I mean, my gut, I'm not as big a fan of that. My gut is kind of like having a threshold that the board's like, $2,500 or $5,000 or $10,000, whatever the number is, and then let a board every once in a while revisit that to see what they're comfortable with, as opposed to an automatic, it goes up every year just because inflationary.
I just want to give you some options of what you could do, or you could do nothing at all and leave it the same.
Right, because right now it's 2,500.
Correct.
And the question is that working effectively, smoothly? But you're saying there is a couple of departments where that seems to be
Cumbersome because of it.
Inefficient and cumbersome.
Yes. Cumbersome is probably the best word that I could give you for that. And then obviously that all comes in through O&B, and each one of those situations are reviewed to make sure they've always submitted all
the
that
only
to-
fear would be that, and again, in the sense of transparency, somebody, here's a $4,000 award, and no one's looking at it because it's underneath the 5,000, and it's going to somewhere it shouldn't be going for something that really isn't needed or isn't really, that type of thing. As long as, I'm always concerned with the kind of backdoor dealings of somebody could do something if.
Correct, and we understand that, so I just wanted to bring what some people brought to us to see where your head is and what your idea is on that, and we'll go the route that you would like to go. It is a little bit cumbersome at 2,500. 5,000 is a pretty big ask. Maybe you do part of that, and then review it again in a couple of years, seeing where we're at with the economy.
Yeah, I don't disagree with Dave at all, and of course, I'm always concerned about there's a preferential vendor, there's, that gets in there, and I think that, it's in the public's interest to always be, as competitive as we can and offer opportunities for everybody to be able to get our business. I think that's in the best interest of taxpayers. And so, I guess if there's been a 50% increase in, you could split the difference, I guess. So you're doing a 50% increase, or the state did, on its unbid contracts. You apply the same percentage in, we're just splitting hairs here, but I don't like it when you open yourself up for the opportunity to just have preferential vendors in the organization in an unbid way.
Correct. And I know from a standpoint, you have people out in the field, and sometimes it's cumbersome. So I understand the request for that. Is that a lot? It could be. And that's where we're seeking your guidance in
Well, there's almost a way around that from the standpoint of, if it's a recurring, ongoing charge, then we should really have a contract that's more macro, in a sense of the same vendor shouldn't keep getting 10 orders for $4,000. We could have a policy that it's, you can go no bid up to 5,000, assuming that one time a year to that vendor. If it's more than that, you know what I mean? It's that recurring. We're just feeding somebody that we want to feed something to. Because if it's multiple orders, then why aren't we buying it in bulk? Why aren't we Why
Right.
isn't it a $40,000 order for the entire year as opposed to 10 $4,000 orders?
And we do try to monitor that when these requests come in. It says, well, you've had the same type of thing from the same vendor all the time. Sometimes we have to go with the same vendor if it's a special tractor and only this person works on it. I think they do a pretty good job at trying to search for the lowest cost. Sometimes it just gets cumbersome in trying to get
Yeah,
it.
totally.
So that's where I'm at, and obviously we go with your recommendation on that, and we can leave it.
Martin, you guys run this on a
What's the
daily
number you
basis.
want?
What do you guys think?
Well, I mean, I'm hearing that the doubling up is a little bit something that you're not interested in. So to me, I was thinking that we maybe would raise to like a 3,500, and then almost during the budget cycle each year, we would evaluate that and bring that to you to see if you wanted to maintain or continue with something.
Which is fine, and in some ways, it's like, as long as we have the safety backstop, I don't really care if it's 3,500 or 5,000, honestly.
Right.
I'm more concerned with the repetitive nature of someone gaming the system.
Well, could we do this, why don't we move it to 5,000? We let the directors and folks know, assuming, I mean, Katie and you are gonna socialize this with the other electeds, is that we're going to be monitoring that. So if we see that, to Katie's point, you have the discretion to actually slam it back down to 2,500 the following year. Actually, probably at any time. Am I
Yeah,
wrong on
and
that?
one
Do
thing,
you understand his concerns?
I do.
How do we
And it is-
memorialize that?
Yeah, and the revised code, in a couple different places, I think, says you can't circumvent the competitive bidding. I mean, that's illegal to do. So in your policy, we've built that in a couple different places as well, where they're reminded, including in this informal price quotes. If it's not in there already, we can add that language into your policy, that it violates policy and the law to attempt to circumvent the competitive bidding process by breaking something into smaller purchases in that way.
I'm not, I mean, I would be concerned about this, but that's not what's driving it. Like, yes, I know it's against the law and I expect the people not to circumvent it, but I'm sort of like on the lower amount of spend, thinking about small businesses in this community, wanting every small business to have the opportunity to do business for the government that they actually fund. And I don't want to squeeze out opportunities for those businesses to be able to participate. When we have large contracts under competitive bidding, it's like the big players are playing there. But when we're talking about, I don't know what they're buying, stationery, a cabinet, whatever it is they're procuring, I just want, I believe in the free market and believe in wanting everybody to have access to be able to do business with their own government.
Well, then why don't we just do 3,500 and then maybe add some specific language of explicitly, this is not, anytime the expectation is to use the same vendor more than, a couple times a year, this needs to be, more competitively bid.
Do you want to specify how many times per year they can use
Well,
one vendor at that?
maybe it's just instruction, it's not within the policy, but maybe it's instruction to say that speaks to our intent. So our intent is to have a government that everybody has opportunity to do business, and that we always want to get the best value for taxpayers while providing the most opportunities for our business community. And that us raising this is not a reflection of a departure in that viewpoint, but rather an expectation, but in recognition of, the practicalities of conducting government. We're raising it to $5,000 for now to see how things go. I don't think it necessarily needs to be in the policy, because like you say, it's already illegal not to competitively bid when that is required. We have this, county policy already for the ease of conducting business. But I do think just expressly stating our intent to other elected officials and our staff and the general public, I think it would go a long way to assuaging my concern with a little c.
I would say from your direct reports, we have a directors meeting tomorrow, so whatever you decide will be vocalized tomorrow, either by myself through Sue, and do that. So that'll be the starting point, but yeah.
Correct. And then we'll bring the actual policy, the final document, back after we review it with the elected officials. So I'm assuming that'll be after the first of the year. It won't get done in the next couple of months. I know that you're busy, and we may bring it sooner. It'll just depend on how quickly we can get out to the other elected officials. We weren't going to necessarily go to all of them, but the ones that have more spending than others, just to get their input.
We just can't wait till 2025 then.
Okay, can someone clarify for me, 3,500 or 5? I heard
5,000.
both.
I'm okay with 5,000, I'm okay
Okay.
with 3,500, yeah.
So, Martin, Susan, make the call, which one?
I mean, I think it's a balancing act, and I think we have been hearing for a while, I mean, even prior to Tiffin leaving, about potentially raising it to 5. And they've asked for it. I think what we do is the balance of what we're hearing you say is we raise it to 5, and from my position from staff to staff, we make it extremely clear of the anticipation and the expectations of this board relative to that. They've asked for it, they want it, they use it appropriately. If they, and obviously there's language that's already built in, and if we need to beef up, we can. I will make that very clear tomorrow, and you have the discretion if there's something to, like, as I use the word, not the political, well, you can slam it back down to 2,500 anytime you want. And so I'm okay with the 5, and I will be very clear and direct to the staff tomorrow.
Fair enough.
Thank you.
Very good. Public session, anything else to come before the board? Martin, Susan, anything?
No, I think we've jammed enough in here today, so we've done
From our esteemed legal scholars, anything else? Very good.
Until
So,
we're
yeah.
sued again.
Very good. Is there I'll entertain a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Yes. I'm just happy I got to use the gavel today.
I know, twice.
It's scary, I jumped